Hello. In this video, I would like to talk about business analytics. And I would like to start with this long definition of business analytics in this first slide of my deck. Business analytics is the use of data, information technology, statistical analyses, quantitative methods, and mathematical or computer based models to help managers gain improved insight about their business operations and make better database decisions. So, this is a really long and loaded definition of business analytics, yet it tells us a lot. It tells us that we must use data, we must use technology, we have to turn data into information, we have to use statistical analysis so we can understand our data better. We have to use quantitative methods and mathematical or computer based models so that we could do all the data analysis needed to understand what is going on with our business. And that's all going to help us make much better decisions. And these decisions are going to be based on data, which will make us more comfortable about our decisions. Now, if we look into the major areas of business analytics, we can see that there are three major areas: descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, and prescriptive analytics. So let's one by one look into each of these areas and understand what we mean by them. So we can start with descriptive analytics. This is going to tell us what it is that our data telling us. We are going to do data queries. We're going to understand our data in the best possible way. And then we are going to create reports. These reports are going to include all the descriptive statistics, such as the mean, the median, the variance of our data. And we are going to go further one step and we are going to visualize our data. We are going to use tables and charts and plots and graphs so that we can not only look at the numbers, but we can look at the graphical representation of our data. So it speaks to us, it tells us information, and then we can make better decisions. And we can go further one step in here. We can do data mining techniques, which are going to help us delve into our data even further than just descriptive statistics. And moreover, we can do some what if analyses that can help us understand what if the situation requires this kind of a model versus what if it is that kind of a model. And what I mean by that, what if the demand for our product is weak versus normal versus strong? What kind of data we have, what kind of information we have, so we can make the best decision about the business. Next one is predictive analytics. This type of analytics help us forecasting through regression analyses that allow us what is going to happen in the future. We can use our historical data, information data from the previous periods, and then we can use that to predict the future and tell that, okay, so if this is what happened in the past, we would expect this to happen in the future. So we can look at the sales, for example, and we can look at the seasonality in the sales. We can understand all the patterns in the past, and those patterns are going to help us understand, predict, forecast future, and we are going to decide based on that. Next is prescriptive analysis. This is actually taking us even further than what we have done so far, and this helps us in terms of optimization and finding the best solution to an objective function. What we mean by an objective function, let's suppose the company is producing two different products, and we have to understand the pattern for those two different products. We're going to set an objective function for those two products, and we will optimize, and we will be able to understand what would be the optimal level of output in order to maximize profits for our business. So to do that, we are going to utilize operations research, management science, and decision-making models, which will provide prescriptive analyses for us. Now let's look into procedures in problem solving. There are always problems within organizations, within the divisions, within the departments. You can look at an organization at the highest level, or you could look into a division within that organization, or you could also try to understand what is going on within your own department, which could be only 4 or 5 people, but still there might be a problem and you are trying to solve that problem. The first step is to identify and define that problem. Next, you are going to list the set of alternative solutions for that problem. And let's say this is within your small department of 4 or 5 people, and you are probably the best person to know all the alternative solutions. One of them being, well, do nothing, just continue as is. Or you may have two different alternative solutions. And then you could research and figure out some other alternative solutions. And then once you have a set of alternative solutions, then you have to determine a criteria to be used to evaluate those alternatives. That's going to help you understand each alternative, its pluses and minuses, its advantages and disadvantages. You will be able to evaluate all your alternatives, and then that would help you pick the alternative that you would feel like is going to solve the problem. So you will choose that alternative in step 5. And then the next step is to implement that selected alternative. And once you implement, you have to go back and evaluate the results of that alternative that you have implemented to see if it was a satisfactory solution to the problem that you had. So these are like the 7 steps in problem solving. And then the first 5 is the steps in decision making, from identifying and defining the problem to choosing an alternative to solve the problem. That is the decision making process. And then of course comes the implementation, as we said, and then you have to go back and evaluate if that was the right decision that you made. And it's okay if it's the right decision. then you are always going to look for ways to improve that. But then it's also okay if that was not the right decision, because that is going to give you a chance to go back, understand what was wrong with the alternative you have chosen, and you can go back and make changes and revise that and apply another alternative that may solve that problem. Now let's look into quantitative analyses and decision-making process. There are two different ones. There could be a single criterion decision problem, and this is going to be finding the best solution with respect to one criterion. And there are also the problems with several criteria, and that's going to be the multi-criteria decision problem. And if we look at the decision-making process, this is what we described in those previous 5 steps that we have discussed. You can see that the first 3 is about structuring the problem, and the last 2 are about analyzing the problem in finding a solution to that problem. So this is actually, like I said before, we have first listed these in a text format from 1 to 5, and then in this slide we have presented this as a chart, and this is actually very helpful for you to see if you are presenting. Sometimes it's better to present something that can be provided as a text in the form of a chart, because this is going to be more appealing to your audience. They will be better able to understand what is going on, and this is going to help them place the structuring the problem in one bucket and analyzing the problem in another second bucket. The analysis phase of decision-making process is supposed to also include the qualitative analyses. We know that we are dealing with data. We are working hard to turn data into information. However, there are always qualitative features that we have to keep in mind and we have to include in our analyses. So it's a great way of looking into the data first, look at all the quantitative analyses, but then augment our analyses with qualitative pieces so that it gives a bigger picture of the problem and the decision making process. And this is also going to emphasize the manager's judgment and experience. It's his or her intuition, or how she or he feels about that problem. And it's also going to show that it's this is more of an art than science. So we have not only included the data and information part, but we have also discussed the qualitative impact of the decision making process. So now let's turn our attention to quantitative analyses. In here, we also have steps. There is a model development. Then we have to prepare our data, and we have to apply that model to the data to come up with the solution. And finally, we have to generate that report, which is going to include quantitative and qualitative considerations to present to our superiors, supervisors, executives, and that will help them understand the problem and how we came up with the solution to that problem. So this gives you a summary of business analytics, and I will see you in the next video.